And we're live here on YouTube. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mike. So, looking forward to a lot of things on the on a personal to-do list or a honey-do list today. So, and this is one of them. So,
yeah,
checking things off and just looking forward to a quiet and little bit of relaxing day today.
Yeah. We get to celebrate my father-in-law's birthday today. His birthday was Wednesday. Shout out to him already, but we'll do that at the end for real. And then today we're gonna celebrate. We're gonna go. I'm bringing pork chops over. We're gonna grill those up. We made some of his favorite dessert / sides, cinnamon Jello. If you've never had it, do you like cinnamon Red Hots, Rich?
Not really.
Oh.
But I'm intrigued by cinnamon Jello, though.
So
I'm intrigued.
It's cinnamon red. It's basically, it tastes just like a cinnamon Red Hot, just in Jello form. It's delicious. I love it. And then we made pretzel salad. Have you ever had pretzel salad?
Oh yeah. You're talking about like the
strawberries,
but the topping, but the topper on that is
nope.
like crushed pretzels.
Nope, the bottom is crushed pretzels with crushed pretzels. Then there's a layer of like whipped cream and cream cheese mix thingy, and then there's a layer of Jello with strawberries inside.
See, ours is the opposite. The crushed pretzels are the top layer. That's the only time I've ever had it. Is the pretzels are the top layer, not the bottom layer.
Okay. I mean, that sounds delicious too. I mean, I'm sure it's the exact same thing. It's just
I'm sure it is.
Slightly different arrangement, or maybe it gets flipped over instead, and that's kind of how it ends up that way. I don't know, but it's delicious, and it's one of my father-in-law's favorites. So, yeah. But with that, Rich, we got a pretty decent show to talk about. We're going to do the NASCAR corner as well as make left turns on the dirt. What else we got going on, Rich?
Well, Mike, we're going to be talking the NFL as we got to look back at week 2 and give you our preview for week number 3. And, Mike, we have for our show our week 1 power rankings, because we haven't really talked power rankings since the preseason, Mike.
So I did it as if it was watching all of week 2 games, because that makes a huge difference, and we're going to talk about that huge difference week 2 changed.
Oh yeah, and that's how I interpreted mine. I looked at it as a body of work from how did those teams do the first 2 weeks.
Because
I did not factor in Thursday night New England
100%
New York game.
But there is a reason why mine changed, and we will talk about that. There's a huge deal. We talked about why, but we'll explain which part it was this week. All that and more, Rich, but what's it time to do?
Mike, why don't you go ahead and roll that intro?
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich, before we get started, we got to do our poll question of the week. Cheerios versus Raisin Bran. Did I even vote on this?
I don't know whether you did or not. I know I voted for Raisin Bran. Even amongst, when I go to we don't keep cereal in our house, but when I go down to the Continental Breakfast, Raisin Bran is usually one of those choices in the cereal dispensers. So being a boring old man, I go for the Raisin Bran. I might have a couple boxes of Raisin Bran. So I went with the Raisin Bran boxes, over. Right? Yeah, well, yeah, like in a bowl. That they got the little plastic dispenser where you turn the knob to let the cereal out. That sort of dispenser. Normally, Raisin Bran is one of those choices. I think it's like Frosted Flakes, and normally like either Honey Nut Cheerios or what's that? Or just regular Cheerios. I think it's like the third choice that gets on a Continental breakfast bar. But I generally like Raisin Bran. So
I cannot find. I can't find it again.
Let's see what. So Mike, while I look that up, because I've buried Facebook on my phone, so I don't go to it as often.
I don't blame you. I deleted it on my phone.
I'm just trying to be better about it. I really am. I've realized that I spend way too much time on it. So I've kind of buried it as an app on my phone. So it takes me.
Oh, I found it.
Yeah, I found it, Mike. And
I had not voted. I did vote. I voted today. Yeah, there's only 2 votes, and that's you and me, and it's both for Raisin Brands. Do we want me to share this again, and we'll run it back?
Let's run it back, and we will revisit it. So we will.
I just shared
it. Starting it. Okay. So
I just shared it.
And let's revisit it at the end of the show. If we have a vote by the time we are done recording, we'll call it valid and move on to our next poll, or we can save it and we'll go for next week. Which would you rather do, Mike? End of the show and see if we have any bites?
We'll check.
Hold it.
We'll check. We'll check at the end of the show and we'll see what that does. And if it doesn't show up, then we'll.
Okay. So I will not reveal next week's poll unless we have another vote on it.
Sounds good.
All right, Mike. Do you see what's coming up next?
Is it a left turn, Rich?
It is a left-hand turn, Mike. And what's after that?
Is it another left-hand turn, Rich?
It is, and tell them why, Mike.
Because we're heading into the NASCAR Corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs on 5th Avenue in Moline or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Okay, Rich, give us a rundown on what happened last week.
All right, Mike. So Chris Buescher was your race winner, narrowly passing Shane Van Gisbergen on a last lap overtime pass to get the win. So a non-playoff driver wins the race, so nobody gets an automatic bid into the second round from this race. For playoff drivers, Mike, your pick of Daniel Suarez finished 13th. My pick of Chase Elliott finished 19th, so you picked up the point there. But on the non-playoff side, my pick of Shane Van Gisbergen finished second, and your pick of Ross Chastain, your pole setter for that race, finished 4th. So overall, Mike, you are still up by 3 at 19-16. And in the playoffs, it is 2-2 on the fantasy side, Mike, through the playoffs. Let me pull that up real quick. All right, for the playoffs, Mike, my bringing up the rear is the new Dupo with 197 points through the 2 playoff races. Mike, you're the man in the middle with 270, and I'm the top man with 374 for the playoffs. Speaking of those playoff drivers, before we talk about, I guess before I give the playoff standings, Mike, what did you think of the race? What was it good having a chaotic?
Didn't watch it.
Didn't watch it? Okay.
Didn't have time.
All right. I watched it. I kind of liked having a kind of a traditional road course in the playoffs instead of the Roval. Because, I mean, it did bring some chaos. Not all of your drivers are good road course racers. So I think I liked having a traditional road course within the playoffs to kind of have that element in there of you've got to be able to win on any type of track in order to advance in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I like having that there. I love the idea of a traditional road course. We were busy last week. I gave my wife the day because I was gonna watch the game at night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where we're at. So.
Gotcha. All right. So playoff standings going into the final race. There's only one driver who has an automatic bid going into the second round, and that's Joey Logano, who won the opening playoff race. Right below him, Mike, probably safe and above the cut line is Christopher Bell, Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman, who's your pole setter for this week. Daniel Suarez, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Biscoe, and then Ty Gibbs. Below the cut line and the drivers that would be eliminated if pending the results of tonight's race are Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr., and surprise playoff qualifier Harrison Burton.
Yeah.
Below the cut line, Mike, do any drivers surprise you that they're there below the cut line?
Martin?
Martin really doesn't surprise me because he kind of has had an up and down season.
He has, but again, in his career as a whole, he 100%. It shocks me that he's the one that did that. So,
okay, for me, Mike, is Denny Hamlin because I mean he took he took some calculated risks in the opening playoff race of staying in the back, not wanting to be involved in a potential crash, and hanging out in the back. And it was a strategy move that just didn't work because there wasn't a big wreck that allowed him to just move up in the standing, move up the grid.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't his day at Watkins Glen either.
Nope.
So.
No.
But luckily, we are going to a track in Bristol it's a track that he's competent in. So I think his strategy might still play off, and he just needs to get above the cut line.
Yeah, and I
think he can.
I think he can do it. Like honestly, he really can. So.
All right. So the Bass Pro Shops night race out in Bristol. It is a night race Saturday night on USA. Coverage starts at 6:00. So, Mike, we've already made our picks, but we'll review them on air in the order that we get to pick them. So, Mike, who is your playoff driver since Suarez finished above Elliott?
Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott. Okay. Any reason?
I think he is one of the best overall drivers out there.
Okay.
And I think he's going to do a great job.
All right. I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. Tends to finish in the top 5 at Bristol, and he's starting number 2 on the grid. And I really haven't picked Kyle Larson much this year, so I'm going to take this opportunity and use it and take it.
Okay.
From the non-playoff drivers, since Van Gisbergen narrowly finished above Chastain at the Glen last week, I'm going to take Ross Chastain. Not too many non-playoff drivers did well in the qualifying, but Chastain is at least starting 12 on the polls, so I'm going to take him.
I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace this week. He's hungry, doesn't have anything to lose. Go for it.
All right. All right, Mike. So we'll keep. So that was the NASCAR Corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, and you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Mike, take us into the MLB.
So this last week, the Cubs played 1 against the Rockies, 3 against the A's, and 2 against the Nationals. Rich, you said they were going to win 5. I said 4. Winner is 4. However, the news this week isn't good for the Cubs, as the Cubs lost against the A's on Wednesday. That clinched the Brewers for the division.
Yeah, so the only way they're going to get in is through a wild card, and even that looks like a tall task this late in the season. I was kind of disappointed in their series with the A's. It seems like they had opportunities to win, and they just couldn't come through. The bullpen kind of let them down a little bit this week, and the matchups were right there.
Yeah,
they were right there with the A's who were struggling. But
here's the deal.
I don't know.
The Cubs are above 500. I can't be upset about 500. That. They're gonna win They're gonna win 80 games. I can't be upset about that.
No.
I think, as much as it sucks at midway through the year, I didn't think we'd be this good. So, yeah. I mean, at least we're not the White Sox.
Yeah, at least we're not the White Sox. and they are living up to that. Our pet name for them, the Sox.
They're gonna.
All right. So right now the Cubs are 79-75 going into their game today against the Washington Nationals. They are 6 games in back of the wild card. They trail the Braves by 2 games, and they trail the Mets obviously by those 6 games. The Mets are facing the Phillies this week, so go Phillies. All right, Mike. So this week we finish up the weekend with 2 home games against the Nationals before going out east to face the Phillies, and then coming home for a Friday afternoon game against the Reds, which will be the final homestand of the year.
Yeah.
Mike, how many wins are you going to give them?
I think they got 4 in them.
All right.
I think
I'm going to go.
They're facing off some teams that they should be able to beat. Theoretically, they're playing for a playoffs position.
Mm-hmm.
So if they need to win out, I don't think they're going to win out, but they need to do as best as they can at this point. And, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go with 3. I want to be different. I want to be different. I mean, the Phillies are also fighting for the division crown. They've clinched a playoff spot. And it's hard to sweep a team, even though I think that they can go undefeated against the Nationals this year. It is tough to sweep a team. So I'm gonna say they go into Philly and we at least win one of those 3 games, and I think they can get the other 2 wins against a combination of against the Nats and the Reds. But no, I agree with 4, but I want to be different so that we have something to talk about. So that we have. Something to talk about on next week's show.
Yeah. Rich, so as we're talking about baseball, we got to talk about the White Sox and how terribly they've been doing. They picked it up a little bit. It looks like they are not going to be the worst team in history, by the way.
Okay.
Because they only have, less than a dozen games left, and the worst team in history lost 134 games, so they can't even get to that mark. They can't even succeed at being the worst team in history. How about that?
But do you want to go down in the record books as one of the worst teams in baseball?
No, but
because at least you can fall back and say at least we weren't as bad as those. I think what was it, the 68 or 67 Mets, I want to say. I thought that was the worst team in baseball.
Something like that. There's something stupid. By the way, another historic thing.
I got it.
Yeah.
With a minimum of 120 games, it was the 1899 Cleveland Spiders on the worst season record of all time, finishing 20-134.
That's where I got the 134 number.
Yeah, in a 162 game season. Give me a second here.
While you look that up, I'm going to point out the White Sox have some of the lowest recorded attendance in almost history when it comes to the modern era of baseball. I mean, at home against Cleveland in their division, three game stretch, Rich. I'm going to let you guess. 3-game stretch, the attendance total over 3 games.
Well, it just like they say when they're playing the Benny's Beverage Depot attendance game, it's a tough thing because are you going with the paid attendance or the actual attendance of people that actually show up?
The recorded attendance.
The paid attendance.
It's the recorded attendance, which I believe uses the gate.
9,000?
Oh, no. Come on, man.
I don't know.
It was 34,000 people. I'm gonna now. Let me look up. Sorry, did you find the 162
So
games?
it was
Give us that real quick.
All right, so the 62 Mets had 120 losses, and then you have the 03 Tigers, which lost 119 games.
So they're one
right
game
now,
away from that.
Yeah, so right now the current 24 White Sox are at number 3 on the list with 118 losses. So they could make it to the 62 Mets record.
I guess they could,
losses.
Yeah, they could. Rich, I am looking right now.
All right.
And at home games. Oh, there it is. The Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games.
And these are night games, not day games, correct?
I don't remember. They don't have the time.
So anyway, we'll at least weekday games. What's the attendance?
I'm doing some calculations. Sorry, it looks like only 10 times this season. That's it. Of all the home games that the Cubs played, only 10 times was there a recorded attendance less than the 3-game stand that we just talked about against the White Sox.
Okay.
So 82 games, and we're not quite finished. We only have 70 plus games. Only 10 of them were under 34,000. And that's that's one game going up against 3 games for the White Sox versus their division rivals, Detroit Tigers. And their nearest, I don't know if Minnesota or Detroit is closer, but I think Detroit. I think they take more umbrage with the Detroit fans than they do the Minnesota Twins fans. But I'm just saying, this is historically terrible. I can't even right now.
What's the attendance figure, Mike?
What do you mean?
We were talking about their attendance figures. So what was it for the Sox?
I told you they had those 3 games against Detroit with only 34,000 people.
Jeez, combined for those.
Combined for 3 games. Combined for 3 games. By the way, in those games, like I was saying, there's only 10 times that the Cubs have had less than that in the entire season at home.
Yeah, I think we've always kind of poked fun at the White Sox games' attendance. Even when they're playing well, they don't draw. They're not drawing well. And yet this is a team that wants a new ballpark.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a location thing, but because it isn't like, well, they're playing real bad right now. They're not reducing ticket prices to get more people into the gate. They're not. So would you pay major league prices to see another equally non-playoff contending team like the Detroit Tigers?
No. But
or the Oakland A's, who they've had recently, or the Cleveland Indians, or the Cleveland Guardians coming in?
Again, I would argue a different thing about it. I would argue if it was the Cubs, yeah. If the Cubs were historically bad, like I'm looking right now and I'm like, Rich, how are you and I not buying $90 tickets to sit right behind the dugout and meeting at the game tomorrow? Ten rows up from the dugout.
In Chicago.
In Chicago. 120 game.
White Sox team.
No. I'm saying
okay.
Cubs.
To see a Cubs game.
Cubs Nationals for $90 each, we could sit right behind the Cubs dugout, 10 rows up.
Probably because we're both watching. We both have children right now, and could we turn around and plop down $90 and the money that it's going to cost to drive there, park there?
I don't pay to park.
The food for the day.
I don't pay to park.
But that's probably why. But yeah, I mean you got fans pleading for Reinsdorf to sell the team, but as a new owner, I think a new owner could fix some of the problems with the White Sox, because it always seems like they stay in-house for their coaching staff hires, or for their coaching staff hires and their front office hires. They promote from within. So if you're not bringing in new ideas for guys, new ideas to change the approach and change the team, how is it going to get any better?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is, I don't deny that. But man,
because it can't all be that the stadium's in a rough neighborhood of town, or it's not a. I guess it's not in a desirable neighborhood to go into for the game. You got plenty of parking. That's something that the Cubs don't have, is parking around the stadium. They got parking lots where you could tailgate there, and in theory not have to buy anything inside the stadium, because you could pregame your drinking and eating before even going into the stadium.
I got one better for you, Rich.
Okay.
So, and again, I'm not saying we do this, but the Wintrust Scout seats, those are the seats right behind home plate.
Okay.
That get you a server that brings you food included. Now, you still have to tip, but I believe, from my understanding, this includes all food and drink.
Okay.
For a game on Tuesday night at 6:40 p.m. on the south side of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think those tickets are right now?
Right now, are we buying them from the Sox or second market?
Vivid
or on
seats.
The secondary market.
Vivid seats.
Okay, so on the secondary market, I'm gonna go 75.
Rich.
No.
$191.
Oh. Okay.
But that's still, like, could you imagine?
If the food's included, yeah, I could see that.
Could you imagine sitting in those are the seats that have, like, the big recliners that you're on TV the entire game? Like, I would pay to wear Cubs gear the entire time sitting there and just enjoy the, like, man, I love the idea, but
yeah, I mean, I did like to see that Reinsdorf and the ownership decided that they are going to lower season ticket prices for next year. I think they said it was, if I can look it up, I want to say it was at least 20 or 30%. And they deserve it. If they want to have season ticket holders, you got to reward those people. You got to do something to get those people.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't.
Oh, there it is. It will be reduced for 2025. They're going to reduce them by an average of 10%. So, but it's something. They're going to. At least they're acknowledging that we're going to be rebuilding, and we could be bad for a couple of years. Reward the people that are at least paying to show up for the games. Whether they actually show up or sell their tickets is beyond that. But so I'm glad they're not increasing or maintaining the price with as bad as baseball as they got. And anything else on the White Sox?
They just suck.
Yeah, they do. So, but speaking of a good thing in baseball, this week Shohei Ohtani became the first player in MLB history to have a 50-50 season. 50
Man.
stolen bases, 50 home runs.
You would think, and again, I guess you wouldn't, but in the 90s or in the 80s with but home runs weren't as big of a thing.
Exactly. You had people stealing bases. You had probably multiple people stealing bases at a
50
probably
rate.
more frequent rate, but not the home runs.
Yeah, looking at it, like the ears of baseball that small ball stealing bases were not a thing. So like you had that for a while where you could do that, and when home runs were huge, people
And
weren't
you weren't
stealing
wanting-
bases.
Yeah, exactly. Even in the Moneyball era, when don't make it out on the base pass.
Yeah, no, I guess it makes sense. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani making that's a great piece of history that we had this week, and it kind of flew under the radar a bit.
I think if you were following the app with getting notifications, they were telling you that you were getting like the push notifications.
The app,
he's going for him.
But again, how about
Mike? Go ahead.
How about the gentleman that the first guy to the home run had the ball ripped away from his hands? So that was a thing. And two, and this is the better one. So apparently now that each ball gets stamped with a number. Did you know this? Mm-hmm. This is something I found out. Each ball gets stamped with a number, and they started tracking during the game. They started tracking the numbers of each ball that was thrown to him in order to be able to verify which ball it was. Which allows whoever catches it to leave the stadium. And
so it's just an easier way to authenticate that they caught home run ball number 52.
Yeah, because apparently previously you couldn't. There was no real way to actually authenticate before they did that, because you could pull the old switcheroo of the ball in the pocket and all that stuff. If you were close enough, you could make an argument, and it'd be hard. But now they have a tracking system. Found that out this week. That was a really fun one to watch.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'd never thought of it that way too.
Yeah.
So Mike, it kind of begs the question of, is with how well that he's done in his first season just being a hitter.
Yep.
At what point do you need to do what the Yankees did with Babe Ruth and say, you're not going to pitch no more?
Part of the reason Shohei agreed to the contract he did was because it meant he would be able to continue to pitch. And I don't know Shohei as well. I do know that the culture he comes from, a man's word, a contract, is to break a contract like that and to break your word like that is a huge deal to him. And so you gotta wonder, would they be willing to break that contract just to, or break that word, and would that cause him would he be upset about it?
Because I don't know. I mean, do you go to a 6-man rotation? Because I think, in a sense, I think we've passed the days where you have a player playing all 162 games, no rest. You always see somebody getting a day of rest. Even the DH gets a day of rest now. They're not playing every day, but in a sense, once every, because the day after he starts, he wouldn't be the DH. He might be available as a pinch hitter, but not as your DH the day after he starts.
And I'm okay with that.
how many? I mean, that's one of the reasons why he was never able to complete a full season with the Angels. It's because he'd always get hurt in some way because of he pitched. It was on the pitching side that he got hurt, not on the batting side.
Yeah.
So is it worth the injury risk to take out one of your best offensive players from your lineup so he can pitch?
And that's one of those questions where it just starts to get really hard. I think he's worth it, but I also know that you have to make. His article this year was money can wait, championships can't.
Yep.
That was his Sports Illustrated preview article this year, and something about that. I mean, if he's all in on championships, then yeah.
Would he be willing to step away from pitching so that he could help his team win ball games as a hitter?
Yeah, and you also, one thing I wonder, and again, I'm not an expert in anything, but how much does him batting and doing that take away from his rehab as a pitcher?
Yeah, because I could have sworn they said that he could pitch in the postseason. So do you use him as an emergency starter or possibly as in a bullpen? Could you imagine if they made the World Series and because they've been stretching him out and letting him pitch on the side, doing simulated games or anything before the games, I could almost see him as functioning as the closer.
Yeah.
During the postseason. Or coming in as a relief pitcher.
Relief pitcher and closer would be hard for him, but I think, if anybody can do it, does anybody doubt that did it be Shohei?
Yeah. But I don't know. Could you plan your World Series rotation accounting for his off day the next day? Because imagine if his rotation fell and he was the one that pitched in the decisive Game 6 game that got you to Game 7, and then you can't use him for Game 7 as your starting DH because you have to rest him, because you have to rest him as a starter because he's pitched the previous day.
Yeah.
Do you stick with your rest plan and potentially you have to pick your spot and use him as a pinch hitter? That'd be a tough pill to swallow unless you deliberately would not pitch him in Game 6, knowing that it's his turn in the rotation and you need to win Game 6, and maybe you save him for Game 7 where he can function as both the pitcher and the DH.
It's one of those hard ones that in the playoffs, actually, if it's me in the playoffs, no, he doesn't get to play. Sorry.
He's not pitching.
You don't get a pitch.
Or you're gonna pick your spots on where you're gonna use him as a pitcher.
At best, he'll be he might be Game 5. I might give him Game 5 because he'll get a rest day. I will let him pitch on travel days if. But again, it depends on how my other team, the rest of my guys are resting. And they have enough guys that rest that are good enough. The question becomes, do you need him? Right now, I don't think that they do. Tell me, if they play their games, is Shohei necessary in the pitching staff?
I don't think that he is.
And that's right now, I don't think he is. And even in a 3-man rotation or a 4-man rotation, if they only have if they're doing a 4-man rotation, which normally you do a 3-man rotation, truthfully, in the playoffs, especially late playoffs. Even if he was in the rotation, does he make the top 3 today?
I think that he does, but you kind of almost have to
But does he? Because he
apply
had
a really strict pitch count so that you can utilize him.
But Rich, number one, he hasn't been in the sequence at all the entire season.
Oh no, this year probably not.
I'm saying
I wouldn't want to take any chances this year.
We're talking this year as he's playing. We're talking this year in the playoffs. That's what I don't care about next year. Next year's problem. Next year, if he's in the rotation the entire season and we have a good workout plan and we have everything, that's a completely different thing. I'm talking this year. I don't pitch him at all this year. Why? Because he hasn't been in the rotation this year. He hasn't. I don't think and you're still nursing that arm to make sure that he can come back fine. Rich, their contract is what, 10 years, isn't it?
Yep, 10 years with lots of money deferred into after that contract ends.
My investment in this young man is nearly $1 billion. Why am I going to risk any of that this first year? That's the problem. This year, he doesn't pitch.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what the Dodgers do. Obviously, I don't think that even if they clinch, they have the number one seed wrapped up. Are they going to send him to? Are they going to send him down to Arizona to stretch out and make some rehab starts, or let alone the AAA to make some rehab starts? I doubt it.
Yeah, no, I don't.
So I wouldn't want to see him making his season debut as a pitcher in a playoff game either.
Nope.
But it wouldn't surprise me if it happens.
Yeah, Dave Roberts knows what he's doing though, so I'm not that scared about it. Okay, Rich, we talked way more baseball than I was planning on. We need to get into the NFL. As we do, let's look at Week 2 in the NFL. As we head to Week 2 in the NFL, we talk about the Bears versus the Texans. We both picked the Texans, and we were both correct, as the Bears are 1-1 on the season, and so are we. Rich, the lock of the week, you picked the Cowboys over the Saints. The Saints pulled it off 44-19. That puts you 0-2 on the season. Rich, how'd I do?
Well, Mike, you picked the Chiefs over the Bengals. It was a close game, 26-25 Chiefs.
Yes,
moving you to 2-0 on the locks of the week. Upset specials, Mike, we're both dropped ours as you went with the Titans over the Jets. The Jets won 27-14. I put the Patriots over the Seahawks. The Seahawks won in overtime 23-20.
Yep.
And Mike, Thursday night football.
Thursday night football was the Patriots versus the Jets, and we both picked the Jets, and we were both correct. Yeah, because it was the first time in like 15 years that the Jets have beat the Patriots at all.
Yes.
So
and that was a 24-3 Jets victory.
Yeah. So Rich, overall on the week, things that I would point out. The Bears looked better. So actually, I would point out that I think the Bears and the Jets look very similar between Week 1 and Week 2. I think the Jets looked terrible Week 1. So did the Bears. And Week 2, they both actually looked decent. The Jets just pulled it off and got that victory. They started getting better. And then the Week 3 game obviously did the same thing for them. Rich, Week 3, the Bears play the Colts. What are you doing?
You know, I was kind of torn on this one, Mike, on where to go with this. Because the Bears' offense, I think, is still a work in progress.
Yeah, 100%.
Right now, it looks like the Colts are, too.
Yeah.
They've been scoring. They've been putting more points on the board. But I think the defense has been the problem. So I'm going to go with the Bears because at least I trust the Bears defense more than the Colts defense. So I'm going to stick with my original pick of the Bears here.
Yeah, I think the defense is what's winning me over right now. And so, yes, I am going with the Bears. But if the offense continues to improve as much as they did last week, which we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to talk about the whole in power rankings. I'm going to really go in depth with that because that game, that Texans Bears game, the Bears looked way better than I thought they were going to. It did not have any business being that close, and yet the Bears made it that close and continued to play well, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So I'm actually going to stick with the Bears as well. Rich, lock of the week this week is your week to pick. Where are you going with that?
I'm going to take the 49ers over the Rams. The Rams have a bad offensive line. They lost their top two receivers in Nakua and Cooper Kupp, and if the offensive line can't keep Matthew Stafford up, he's going to have a hard time moving the ball through the air. So even though the Niners are without McCaffrey and now Deebo Samuel, I think they still got enough to beat the Rams.
I 100% agree on that one. Then we move into mine, and I'm going to pick the Bills over the Jaguars. I hope this isn't a trap game, but man, does it have all the hallmarks for a trap game. The Bills are way overmatched, or the Bills way overmatched the Jaguars. The Jaguars don't look good enough to do anything about it, and I think the Bills are just looking great. And the first 3 weeks of the season so far, they look like the team to beat, in my opinion. We'll talk about more about that in a second.
All right. For the upset special, Mike, I really didn't see too many upsets worth picking that I was really confident in this week.
Okay. Confidence is a good point.
Confidence is the good word. There's probably some good upsets you could pick, but confident in is another thing. But we saw we saw the same thing last week, and there were a ton of upsets that happened.
There really were.
So I'm gonna take the matchup against my least favorite team in the NFL, and
second least favorite team, Rich. Second least favorite team, because I'm picking the team against your least favorite. Come on.
Okay, so I'm gonna take the Chargers over the Steelers. The Chargers have played a lot better than I thought they would.
Yes.
So, but I mean, as long as J.K. Dobbins can keep pushing the rock, and they keep running the ball, I think that could overcome some.
I don't think that's
an injury. Justin Herbert's injury. So I think as long as Herbert plays, they'll be okay. And the Steelers, while they're winning games, they're beating bad teams with average to below average quarterback play from Justin Fields. So I'm going to go the Bolts.
So you mentioned the reason why I think that's a bad pick. Justin Fields, man, he's got everything to prove, and he's got a coach and a team that believe in him. It at least feels that way now. I totally think that I think you're gonna see Justin Fields becoming the man that everybody in Chicago knows he can be, but the Bears didn't give him the option to be. So I think that's why I think it's going to be. I think you're wrong on that pick, but that's okay. I hope for your sake that you're right on that one, because I do like the Chargers as well. I, however, am going to pick Tennessee over the Packers. I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why. It jumped out at me when I was scrolling, trying to pick who I wanted to pick for that game, or for the upsets. The game that jumped out the most was this game. I don't think, especially the Packers don't have Love, and I think beyond that, I think Tennessee can't. I mean, they need to win this game, and so I'm 100% thinking this is how it's going to go.
All right, Thursday night football, Mike. We get another great game. The Dallas Cowboys and the New York Football Giants.
Thank you very much, NFL, for giving me reasons not to watch Thursday night football. I'm going to pick the Giants, or the Cowboys, because nobody's going to pick the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cowboys as well. This is, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that you have is at least you have
division,
the potential for a national audience since the Dallas Cowboy fan base does stretch.
And it's a divisional game theoretically. So, sure. Okay, Rich, you ready for the power rankings?
I am, Mike. I finished up. I put everything together and finalized it. I think it was on Thursday or Friday when we were talking.
Yep.
When I messaged you.
Yeah.
And I feel good about it. I feel good with who I have in my top 10 and, of course, the bottom 5. So
yeah, so right now we got to go quick on this. We're just going to do top 10, bottom 5. I think next week, hopefully, I don't think we'll have as much baseball to talk about. Maybe we will. Maybe something's going to happen this week that we don't foresee, and then we're going to end up this way. But let's talk about this real quick. Get it done. We only got about 10 minutes left in the show as we try for that hour mark. Every week.
Let's just do our rankings, and we'll save
Yep.
where the ELO and the actual power rankings are. So
yep,
we're just
totally
doing
fine.
our eye test.
Rich, number 1, and I think this is without a doubt, and I've said it since the beginning of the year. And if you look at my predictions at the beginning of the year, I hold fast to this. The team that anybody in the NFL needs to beat, you got the Kansas City Chiefs.
I agree. I put the Chiefs there as well. My number 2 team, a team that I'm surprised made it up has done as well, was the Buffalo Bills. I thought that I kind of had them as maybe a gap year for the Bills, as they were kind of they had a lot of cap casualties and a lot of veterans to replace because of those cuts.
Yeah,
they've been playing well, so I'm going to go with the Bills.
I'll get to the Bills in literally just a second because
Gotcha.
My number 2 is the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, they've lost a game, and yes, they are banged up right now, but they still look the part, and they still are not missing a beat. So I have them at number 2. This week could completely change and flip that script, but that's where I'm at. And number 3, I have the Buffalo Bills.
All right, I went with the Niners here at number 3.
Okay.
I kind of I still see the kind of the Vikings as an upset win, but they're doing really well even without having their best player Christian McCaffrey on the field with them.
Yeah. Number 4, this is a great spot to have who I think is going to win the NFC North, and that's going to be the Detroit Lions.
I put the Lions here as well. So they've won 2 close games. They won both their games have been close games. So, and I have the team that they lost to last week pretty high as well. So I kind of view that as a good loss.
Yeah.
It's not a bad loss. So number 5, Mike, is where I put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, that's a good spot to have them. I actually have the Philadelphia Eagles here at number 5.
All right, I have the Eagles a little lower, so I'll get to them, Mike.
At number 6, I have the Houston Texans. They, for a team that has a ton to overcome over the last 10 years of as a franchise, they have overcome so much of it, and this year they are looking so good. I'm going with Houston Texans are number 6, and on the rise immensely for me. And number 7, Rich. Oh wait, who do you have at number 6? I forgot to.
Number 6 is where I put the New Orleans Saints.
Oh,
you could say that New Orleans, they should have beaten Carolina the way that they did, but to go into Dallas and handle the Dallas Cowboys the way that they did, that really impressed me, and so that's why I had to put them at number 6.
I have them a bit lower than that. At number 7, Rich, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is where I have them. I like them there.
Okay.
Who you got at 7, Rich?
All right, so I realized that I've had 2 teams at number 6 when I looked at my rankings, so I'll make sure to fix that for next week. So I had both the Saints and the Texans at number 6.
Okay.
So I'm choosing to put the Houston Texans at number 7.
Okay, that's fine.
So they've had 2 close wins against the Colts and the Bears. I kind of want to see what they can do against I would say like a playoff worthy team.
Okay.
So that's why I put them at number 7.
At the beginning of the year, though, you did say that the Bears are a playoff team.
Yeah, I did say that they would be contending for a team.
So that does say that you would, in your argument, that the Houston Texans did win against a playoff caliber team. Just pointing that out.
Number 7. I appreciate that. I'm going with number 7. because they mean
who do you got at number 8,
they
Rich?
They haven't been winning in convincing fashion.
Who do you got at number
8 is where I have the Eagles. So
okay.
They lost they barely beat the Packers.
Yep.
They lost a close one to the Falcons in a game they should have won. So
yep.
I gotta put them down at number 8.
Okay, and I don't mind that. I actually have the Dallas Cowboys at number 8. At number 9, this is where I have the Saints. I think I like their wins. I think that those wins are great, but I think, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I don't think they're going to stay there long. And that's
all right.
I think they're
fair.
a team on the descent. Because I think that reality is going to catch up to them very quickly, and they will not be in the top 15 very shortly. At number 9, Rich, who do you have?
This is where I put the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay,
so
I can dig it.
They haven't really beaten very many good teams, as the 2 teams that they've beaten are in my bottom 5, but I got to reward that 2-0 start.
Yep, I can totally dig it with that, but I put the Seahawks at number 10, and your number 10, Rich.
The Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, and again, I'm not mad at that either. I think that's probably a fair assessment of it. I went a little bit higher. I think that they still have the potential to be better, and maybe it's just visual bias that we see them a lot. Now, a team that is out of the top 10, that if we would have done this last week, 100% would have been in the top 10, probably in the top 5, in my opinion at least. Mm-hmm. Has dropped all the way to 25, and probably this week will drop below that. The Miami Dolphins.
All right. I put the Dolphins down to number 19.
Rich, I'm sorry. Tua Tagovailoa has to he will be retired. Whether or not it's by choice, by commissioner, or by health, he has to retire he's done. And without that, we've talked about that without him, that team is done. Doesn't have anything to do. They have, you can have lightning in a bottle, but if you don't have anybody that can hold that bottle, you got nothing.
I kind of want to, I don't have much faith in their quarterback room right now, but I want to see what this team can do. Can Mike McDaniel, as an offensive mastermind, as we've called him, or what the media's called him, can he scheme up the backup quarterback to keep them afloat, or will they make a trade to replace Tua? So I'm glad that they placed him on the IR, forcing him to miss the next 4 games.
I got a better idea for that.
What?
Steelers win this week. Okay? If the Steelers win this week with Justin Fields under center, and he looks good, do they trade Russell Wilson down to Miami? And Russell Wilson looks good because he can play with the weapons that are there.
That could be what I've heard, that baby Stafford is the one that goes out to Miami as a replacement, and I've also heard like Trey Lance maybe being the guy that gets traded out there.
I don't know that I like the Trey Lance one, but
I don't know.
The Stafford one is a little crazy to me. Okay, Rich, anybody that's out of the top 10 this week that might have been in your top 10 last week if we would have done this, other than Miami?
For me, it's the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
I have them at number 11, but I believe that I kept them in the top 5, even though they lost a close game to the Chiefs.
I have them at 12.
I have 0-2, and other teams above them have won those close games. I had to put them outside of the top 10.
Totally
they're probably on their way back up.
Yeah. I have the Packers at 11, just to round out the North. I have the Packers at 11 and the Vikings at 13. Man, the Vikings are looking much better than what they did 2 weeks ago even. We'll see if that continues to hold. Rich, where do you have the Bears?
I put the Packers at number 12 and the Vikings at number 14.
Okay.
For the Chicago Bears, I put them at number 22.
I have them at 19.
So we're not that far off.
If they continue to play like they did last week, I think they'll go up even higher. They might hit that 15 mark, but we will see what happens this week. Rich, let's get to the bottom 5 at 32. I have the Carolina Panthers.
Agreed. Last week I had them at 31 because I thought the Giants played. I thought the Giants played worse than the Panthers at the time, but after seeing how badly the Panthers played against the Chargers as well, I had to put them at 32 and move the Giants up to 31.
31, I have the Denver Broncos. At 30, I have the Giants.
All right, I put the Broncos at number 30.
29, I have the Tennessee Titans.
I do too.
Okay, and at 28, did I do that? Oh, I'm sorry. At 29, I had the New England Patriots. Sorry.
All right.
I had the New England Patriots.
28, I have the Patriots.
29, I have the Tennessee Titans.
Okay. Yep, I have the Titans at 29, the Patriots at number 28.
Okay.
A team that I never would have thought I would have ranked this low, the Los Angeles Rams, number 27.
Wow. See, I still have the Rams at 23. Again, this is more of a paper rating for me than it is what they've done so far. I know that the eye test is supposed to be it's supposed to be an eye test, not a paper test, but for me, this early in the season, some of the paper has to come into the eye. That's just the way I look at it. So, with that, Rich, anybody else that you want to highlight before we leave this and hit our quick hits? Because we have a couple things to do in there. I have a shout out and a esports update. So we'll jump right into the quick hits and go with the esports update. The esports update this week is brought to you by Exile Gaming. Exile Gaming in Milford, Iowa. Check them out for all your gaming needs in Northwest Iowa. Okay, Rich, we won our match. So, first of all, last Saturday, the reason we didn't do the morning show that we normally do is because we were doing an esports tournament. We took first place and in both the team ranking and the number one overall player in the entire tournament was one of our guys, which we talked about last week. Then this week, our guy we handled and handily beat Garner Hayfield Venture quite handily and did great there. Did an interview yesterday with the KUOO Campus Radio for the halftime show of last night's football game, which was Estherville's home opener Estherville's homecoming against Okoboji, and Okoboji won that game 40-19. With that, Rich, I have a shout out. Tony Phillips, my father-in-law, had his birthday on Wednesday, and we are celebrating today. Happy birthday, Tony.
I do not have any shout outs this week.
Do I do it today, or isn't it next week? Isn't it a week from today, Rich? Or no?
Not for a couple weeks, if you're referring to my wife's birthday.
Yeah. Okay. With that, Rich, the people want to watch us on Facebook, or want to watch us on or listen to us in the car. How should they go about doing that?
Mike, you can find us wherever you download all of your other popular podcasts: Apple, Spotify, and Google Play or YouTube podcasts. Whatever Google's podcast platform is, you can find us there. Just search for Balls and Sticks, the podcast.
Yep.
Mike, if they are watching us here, if they're listening to us in podcast land, where can they find the recording of the show?
You can find it on YouTube, or you can find it, I share it on Facebook at facebook.com/ballsandsticks, or and if you want to participate in the poll question, check out facebook.com/fans of Balls and Sticks, Balls and Sticks, Rich's page or my page. We try to share it. Let me real quick while we're...
And I've got it up while you were giving that. So speaking of our poll question, when we normally do our poll question at the top of the show, but we didn't have any votes besides the two of us. Well, Mike, we have 5 votes in our serial poll. So we will mark this as official.
Yep.
Mike, we were the only 2 people that voted for Raisin Bran. coming in at plain old Cheerios. Plain Cheerios. Sue Hart, Tyler Allen, and my brother Josh. Cheerios. Plain heart healthy Cheerios will move on in our poll.
What's our poll question next week, Rich?
Next week, Mike, we'll be going into our round 3. We're going breakfast entrees. We're going to go French toast and omelets. French toast and omelets.
Okay. Rich, let's go ahead and roll that outro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.